Burnout with Gabbie Hanna.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Burnout. I am so unbelievably excited for this episode. We're here with Dr. Greer. Please enter this conversation with an open mind. I obviously know who you are, Dr. Greer, but just quickly for our audience, if you just want to give us a little bit of a backstory of why you're so passionate about this, your line of work, and just start wherever you want.
Well, a lot of people don't know I'm an emergency doctor, ER trauma, and but my mother's older brother worked on designing the lunar module that landed on the moon. You just mentioned the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out about a lot of classified projects back when I was a little kid, and his company was Northrop Grumman, which is the second biggest contractor for the U.S. government for space and aerospace. So I began to look into this issue after I had a sighting when I was 8 or 9 years old. And it was a UFO that was very close, broad daylight, where I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I knew I had seen something extraordinary. Of course, my parents just said, oh, well, kids see things,
Mm-hmm.
sort of dismissed it and laughed it off. But it ignited a lifelong interest in this. And so over the years, I began studying it and eventually had an amazing contact experience when I was 18 up in the mountains of North Carolina, and started a technique of making contact with these civilizations using a whole array of approaches. A lot of it happened to do with what we call the science of consciousness, we can get into in a moment. But on the way to doing all that, what I discovered back in 1992, before you were born.
I was born in 91. I'm here.
Okay, so you're a toddler. And I was on a beach actually in Florida with about 60 people. Some of them were Air Force colonels and pilots. And we were using these techniques to contact these, I don't call them aliens because everyone thinks you're talking about people from.
I feel the same way about the word.
I always just say ETs for extraterrestrials, like the movie E.T.
Mm-hmm.
So to make contact with these ETs, and we had 4 of them show up, pop, 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 right in the sky. And so we videotaped that. We didn't have good cameras back then, but it got photographed and ended up on the front page of the Pensacola paper. And that triggered the head of Army intelligence in the U.S. Intelligence community and military to basically come after me and say, what are you doing?
So scary.
I said, well, yeah, no, I wasn't afraid at all.
I am.
No, I wasn't. And I'm still not. But I said, look, here's what we're doing. We're making peaceful contact with these civilizations. We know they're here. I've known that since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have screwed it up. The government, the U.S. government and other governments have really messed this up.
Who were you talking to? Like, who were you in contact with about this?
It was the head of Army intelligence.
And they reached out to you?
Yes.
What did they say? Like, what was their approach on that?
Well, to be blunt, I don't know what kind of language I can use on this podcast.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Well, they said, what the hell do you think you're doing? And you have no right to be doing this, and you can't do this. I said, well, I do have a right. I'm a free citizen of the earth and the universe, and we're doing this for peaceful purposes.
You don't have a right to do what exactly? Like, what part of it to them?
Contact, to bypass the national security state.
That's so bizarre. Wow.
So I basically said, screw you and the horse you rode in on.
Mm-hmm.
And, he and I kind of went mano a mano. And I told him to get lost. I'm not going to listen to anything he says.
It's interesting because inadvertently
basically these guys are total fascists.
Yeah, but like by telling you that you shouldn't be talking about it, he's basically admitting that it's real because he wouldn't care. Yeah, but like he's admitting it to you.
Let me start with all your listeners.
Yeah.
And all your fans. Everyone who is in a senior position inside key operations that are known as unacknowledged special access projects, which are the super secret black ones, they all know this is real.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the media and Hollywood and pop culture either ridicules the subject or makes it ridiculous.
Or scary.
or scary
Mhm.
by design.
Mm-hmm.
They want it to be like that, so it keeps people away from looking into it.
Yeah.
And the reason for it, I found out, I didn't know this when I first started my project 30 years ago. I started this project, the CE5 contact initiative to make contact. I thought, well, it just hasn't been handled well and people don't know what they're doing, which is partially true.
Mm-hmm.
But then I discovered that the reason it's secret, and this is the thing that shocks people, and it's so secret that I have never met with a senior White House or congressional person who has been informed properly about this problem, is because the technology, when you see, if people go to CNN and look up these Navy jet fighters chasing the UFOs off the coast of California a couple years ago, you're going to see those things are moving in non-aerodynamic ways.
Yeah.
They look like they're defying the laws of physics. Now, what's important to realize is that between 1940s and 50s are classified super secret projects that my uncle worked with, had figured out how those things work.
Was he feeding you information?
Some, but mostly it was through a network I started because of the contact we had made.
And does that put him and those people in danger for sharing that with you?
No, early on it was. Now I don't worry about it. In the 90s, there were 3 people on my team that were assassinated.
Yeah.
I was almost assassinated.
Okay, that's a story I'd like to hear. Have you told that story in the documentaries that you were almost assassinated?
Not really. I mean, people, you can only put so much in an hour and a half, 2 hour
Of course.
documentary.
Well, I'd love to hear that story.
It would be 1,000 hours of documentary.
Yeah. Really quick before you go on, I just want to say here at the top of the episode, check out Dr. Greer's documentaries, Unacknowledged and something of the fifth. What's it called? Sorry, I always forget that one. Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. In my head, it's always Fifth Dimension. Those will be linked down below. Make sure you check those out because, and I'll be honest, I watched the first one and I was kind of in and out of it because I've seen other alien type documentaries and I've never been an anti-believer or anything. But then when I watched the second one, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, that was the one that really piqued my interest and started really making me passionate about it. So please check that out and please tell us your assassination story.
Well, I mean, we have to understand. I mean, we have a document from the early 1950s, it's top secret, that accidentally got declassified that describes the classified projects dealing with UFOs are the most secret projects in the history of the United States, period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason for that isn't because there's some scary thing out in space. It's because once they figured out how those things are moving, how they're flying around,
Mm-hmm.
they're not using oil or gas or jet fuel or rockets. I mean, rockets were cool in the 40s.
Yeah.
I got a memo from Elon Musk and SpaceX. Boring. That was really cool in 1940 something. So the reality is the technologies behind how those things are moving would, if they were brought out to the public, would end oil,
Mm-hmm.
gas, coal, nuclear power.
Yeah.
We would have a planet that would be like a paradise. There'd be no pollution. There'd be no poverty. And we could end all the oil wars and the Middle East stuff. But the problem with that is that we're talking about hundreds of trillions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
in assets that
Mm-hmm.
are tied up in public utilities, car engines, jet engines, oil, gas, coal, all of it. You add all that up, it's in the hundreds of trillions of dollars.
And the people at the top don't want us to have it, of course. Yeah.
The people who are the global power folks, and this, by the way, has nothing to do with the White House. The White House is the last to find out about anything important. That's a true statement. My biggest shock in 1993 was me briefing President Clinton's CIA director. This is the head of the CIA,
Mm-hmm.
who asked me to come to Washington to brief him on this. And he confessed that he and the president were not being told anything, that they were literally denied access to these projects.
Did you see, I'm sure you've seen it, Trump's executive order to release all of the information on UFOs? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, there's 2 problems here. One is, I mean, I've done a briefing for every president since Clinton.
Mm-hmm. When you say you've done a briefing, you mean you've spoken to the president about the UFOs?
I've either put a briefing together for them or met with their senior people, their CIA director or whoever, and gotten them the information. So every incoming president's interested in this subject.
Of course.
But they don't have access.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do get access, they're not given control.
Yeah.
So there's two different things here. Your audience needs to understand. If people believe their history books in middle school about the chain of command and the government.
Yeah.
Just put all that aside. That's sort of a fairy tale.
Yeah, and a lot of U.S. history books are fairy tales in general. So many of the stories. Exactly.
It's all the Truman Show. It's like Jim Carrey in the Truman Show, that old movie with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Where he wakes up and realizes he's just been in a show.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm sort of like, someone called me Morpheus once, giving people the red pill, here's how things actually work. And the truth is that people at that level of government are rarely given this information. And if they find out about it and they try to get control over it, they aren't given control.
My question is,
let's say that someone goes in and briefs the president, who's from the Pentagon. They'll give them 10% of the truth, hide the rest of it. And if the president tries to exercise any authority over these projects, they basically just say, go away.
So this energy that you're talking about, the technology to move against aerodynamics, do we know that exists, or do we know how it works, and are we able to replicate it? Or is it something where we know that it exists and we could, but we don't accept the information?
Oh, no. I mean, like my uncle's company, Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Skunk Works, the big aerospace high-tech contractors, they have figured out how these work, and they already have built man-made UFOs. So a lot of the UFOs that you see out there are actually made by classified projects.
Interesting.
They're both man-made and extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from the preeminent aerospace official in the world, number one, top.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, you don't have to take my word for it. We have put out. If you go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Dr. Stephen Greer 55, I know it's long, but you guys can put it up there. We have like 70 top secret military people's testimony up there.
That's what's so frustrating to me when I'm trying to talk to somebody about it, because it's always there's no evidence. And there is. I feel like it's the same with people don't want the evidence. Like when I'm watching a murder mystery and they're telling me, here's the documents from the murder, here's the weapon, and they're showing me pictures and they're telling me, I'm believing them because they're showing me the evidence. But for some reason, when it comes to things like extraterrestrial life or something that we can't quite understand or don't want to understand, all of a sudden it's, even though all of these documents and files and people speaking out and all of there's footage. Every piece of footage out there is doctored. That's what's so frustrating to me, is that there is evidence and people ignore it. And that's why I'll tell people again to go check out the resources that he's talking about. Look at his documentaries, pick up his book, and actually look for yourself and then make an educated decision what you feel, but don't just go into it. I told my friend the other day when I was really getting into this, I was like, dude, I really think that this is big and important. We need to talk about this. And I was telling her about my experience seeing a UFO, and my best friend who actually uses meditation and has met aliens, ETs twice. And she laughed it off and she was like, okay. And I was like, so what, you don't think they exist? And she said, no, I think that ETs exist. I just don't believe that they're visiting you and talking to Taylor. And I said, well, why not? If they exist and you acknowledge that fact, that it's likely they exist, why are you so close-minded to the idea that they might want to contact us? And, ETs are looking at us like, why are you guys still fighting? Why are your icebergs melting? Why is there war? Why are you so obsessed with money and material things? Let us help you. And then we're just saying no. Function of beauty. I'll tell you what, they've been in my life for a while. They've been one of the most consistent things in my life for the last few years, to be honest. We all got goals for 2021, school, career, diet, exercise, the usual stuff. But let's talk about our hair goals. My hair is processed as hell. It's also blonde now. So now I have different needs than I had when I first started using Functional Beauty, and that's fine because they're completely customizable. All you do is take your quiz online and you tell them what your hair is all about. You tell them what you want your hair to be. You pick your scent, you pick your color, and you completely customize it to your needs. And now they're also doing skincare, which is really cool. They have like lotions and stuff. Every ingredient Functional Beauty uses is vegan and cruelty free, and they never use sulfates or parabens. You can also go completely silicone free. Never buy off the shelf just to be disappointed ever again. Go to functionalbeauty.com/Gabbie to take your quiz and save 20% off on your first order. That applies to their full range of customized hair, skin, and body products. Go to functionalbeauty.com/Gabbie to let them know you heard it from our show and get 20% off your first order. That's functionalbeauty.com/Gabbie. You live to create, but you don't live to worry about the last nitpicky details involved in putting the final touches of content. My perfectionist, neurotic brain is screaming just thinking about it. Do what you do best and let Issue handle the rest. Issue is an all-in-one platform to create and distribute beautiful digital publications, from brochures to magazines to sales collateral and more. Issue makes it super easy. Just upload your PDFs and files, and Issue transforms them using your vision and customizable templates to create content you want. With Issue, you create it once and distribute it everywhere. Guys, such a game changer when you're trying to promote across all platforms. So get started with Issue today for free, or if you sign up for a premium account, you get 50% off when you go to issue.com/podcast and you use promo code Gabbie. That's ISSUU.com/podcast and you use promo code Gabbie at checkout for your free account or 50% off your premium account. That's issue.com/podcast with promo code Gabbie.
Well, we're not just saying no. We have very advanced weapon systems that are targeting ET spacecraft and shooting them down. So it gets more complicated than that.
So we have harmed aliens. I'm sorry, I have to get aliens out of my head. We've harmed ETs and their UFOs.
Yeah, we've killed hundreds, if not thousands of them. And so I've been called in on a number of these emergencies.
Is that in the documentaries?
Not much. I mean, again, that's another whole archive that I have about objects that have been downed. And in fact, I just got from a woman whose grandmother worked on the original atomic bomb. Her grandmother died, and when they were going through her things, a picture fell out of an extraterrestrial on a dissecting table with all these military and medical doctors dissecting this ET, but it wasn't from quote unquote Roswell. It was from the 20s.
Wow.
So this is a long story. It goes back at least 100 years. And I think, there's so much information on this. Now, you're talking about the way people respond to this. I am sympathetic to it because 99% of the material out there on this subject is, quite frankly, BS.
Bogus. Yeah, of course.
And then the part that is real ends up getting run over by the nonsense or by the mainstream media and the Hollywood films and the government ridiculing it. So, by the time I came on the scene trying to fix this problem, we were already 50, 60 years into the cover up, into lies, and into the public.
Do you believe that media, when they make these movies and things, are for them, like say the director or writer of a movie, are they aware, do you think? Or do you think they're just writing a story based on lore that they've heard? Or are they kind of a part of it, being told what to do?
They're both. I mean, most people working on a project like that say it. I've been working with some people at Scott Free, Ridley Scott's outfit that did the movie Alien and also Black Hawk Down and what have you. Most of those people have no knowledge of that, but there would be some people embedded in the studio. And this is also true of the big networks and the big internet companies that are on the payroll of the intelligence community. If you look at this documentary, that Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, that's been #1 in the world since it came out in April, that we have a man there who did the Pentagon Papers for the New York Times in the 70s. He's a Harvard law guy, Daniel Sheehan. And Mr. Sheehan, when he was doing the Pentagon Papers with the New York Times, representing the New York Times, when they were leaking those documents about the Vietnam War from the Pentagon, he saw a document that listed 42 senior editors from major media, the New York Times, the broadcast networks, that were on the payroll of the CIA.
Wow.
In other words, they were both, so they had a cover of being a senior national security editor at a media outfit, but they were actually on the payroll of the CIA, and they were there to basically suppress stories or spin them in some other direction.
Do you believe that we're going to contact and experience interaction with ETs in our lifetime?
Yeah, we already are. I mean, this
But
is
I
what
mean, like, very globally and very mainstream. Like, they're here. There is no theory or conspiracy. It's like they're fucking here. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think, yes, here's the problem. That's happening. That's beginning to happen now. The problem is that the people who are the warmongers and the militarists are all spinning the narrative in the direction of alien threat.
Yeah.
So I don't use the word alien. It's associated with a xenophobic, racist. It's racist, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a girlfriend in high school who was African American, almost got killed for having it. This is North Carolina in 1972 and 3. So, I mean, I know racism when I see it. And the intelligence community, the pop culture are all using terms and concepts that are racist.
Well, I have a question that I wanted to ask you, because I know a lot of what you do is based around the idea of, peaceful interaction, and they come in peace. Is there a possibility that, of course, there are peaceful species, but I'm assuming that in the galaxy there's tons of different species, just the way that there are good people and bad people? Are there good ETs and bad ETs?
Well, of course, there would be planets out there that would be at a primitive level of development like Earth. But that's not the same thing as them having the capacity to go faster than the speed of light from one star system to here, and they're still malevolent. If they were hostile and they had that technology, they would have blown themselves up before they could get here. For example, humans here's the problem on Earth. Our technologies have exceeded our social and spiritual development, because our technologies can destroy this planet and potentially could be a threat in space.
Yeah.
But our social development and evolution is behind the technology. That's when you can destroy your planet. And that's what mutual assured destruction and nuclear bombs and technologies we don't have time to go into that are much more dangerous than nuclear that we have.
Yeah. So
now, let me ask you, I'm trying to answer your question.
Sure.
So if you're going from another star system, you have technologies that are 100,000 years more developed than that.
Yeah.
So if they were hostile, all they'd have to do is glance towards us, hit a button, boom, it's done. So that makes great Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
But it's also the narrative of the lunatics in the UFO community and the people who are really serving the military industrial complex, who have penetrated the media and Hollywood studios.
Yeah.
That whole narrative is all made up, because guess what? The big thing that's coming that I'm warning people about is that they're going to try to disclose this subject in a way that presents it as a threat to Earth.
Right.
Why? Not because it's real. If it were a real threat, it'd be all over by now.
Yeah, especially if we're hostile towards them. If we have killed ETs in the past, if they wanted to retaliate, they could have.
The big one that's coming that these guys want to hoax is the alien threat. And that's what we have to warn people of. Now, the other part of it is that if we organize people into teams to make contact with these ETs, we can do it. And we are. Right now, we have a couple 100,000 people around the world doing this. And it's called,
I'm dying to. Oh, I have the app. I haven't started yet because I'm trying to recruit my team of people. And I've been asking questions, planting seeds of who's actually open and excited, because this is something I am first of all, I really think I can do it. And second of all, really passionate about it, because I think the reason it's so easy for me to believe you is because and I'd like to get into this section of it, because I think that this is very interesting. You talk about contacting them through deep meditation. And I definitely astral project, and I can put myself in different places. I can put myself in the middle of the ocean. I can put myself in some type of heaven or purgatory or visit people. And I
Right.
know that it's real because it's in my brain. Am I actually in the ocean? No, but I can feel it and I know where I am. So to me, that's easy to imagine accessing that. And I've seen a UFO, and it was kind of like you, 8 or 9 years old. And I actually have suppressed this memory so many times.
Right.
And as I was telling my boyfriend about it, I was like, I have told this story 100 times to 100 people, and I can't remember who or when. And every time I remember this experience, I get so excited, and then it slowly fades. And I finally started putting the pieces together, and I was texting my mom and my family trying to figure out, like, why is this memory so convoluted? And
Right.
yeah, because it's like I was told that it was not real. I was told that it was thunder and lightning, and nobody, like, adults were around to see it. I was with another kid who was a stranger. My parents were asleep in the car. We were camping. All the adults were in the tents. And then me and this kid started screaming because we were outside. I was eating moon pies, and I looked up at the sky, and in between the trees, it was like it filled with light. And I felt, oh my God, thunder. And then I felt this kind of like, the only way I know how to describe that feeling is like almost like a sonic boom, but it didn't hurt. It didn't feel like anything other than just surrounded by kind of silence and energy. And as I looked up, the sky kind of like opened in this light. And then I was seeing the blinking triangular lights. And at the time I thought, this is what people say they saw, is the triangular lights. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And then as quickly as it came, it disappeared. The sky closed back up. The light disappeared. And I looked at this kid and we're like, oh my God, we just saw aliens. And then we went and we ran and we told everybody. And everybody was like, it's thunder, it's lightning. There was a storm that night before. And then I was just like, okay, I'm fucking crazy. No one's ever going to believe me. So I just pushed it away.
Well, the truth is about 15 million Americans have seen something like you just described. That's true. But because the subject has been so poo-pooed and ridiculed, it makes it hard to talk about it. I think that's one reason why I've been trying to put together really top scientists, military people who are whistleblowers to come forward. And I now have about 980 top secret guys on my team, and some women, who have been in these projects, who are giving us documents, information, cases. It's so much material that it would literally be, hey, get Netflix to do a 10-year documentary series on this. We could fill 10 years, no problem.
Yeah, wow.
But the point I'm making is that there are millions of people who've seen similar to what you just described. Now, what I decided to do after I had my experience when I was 18, and I actually had a direct contact with the ETs, I said, you know what? The way that happened, and this is sort of a real quick story about this, is that when I was 17, in March of 1973, I got very sick and I died. Then I had a near-death experience. And that near-death experience, I was raised atheist. We didn't think anything existed outside material existence. But I had this experience of the entire cosmos, sort of a cosmic consciousness experience. It was really beautiful. And, as a 17-year-old, I go, well, I didn't die. Obviously, I'm here. So I came back and I went, this is amazing. So on my 18th birthday, I learned meditation, on June 28, 1973, when I was 18. And I began to practice it. And one night,
when you say you died, just for everybody, why? How were you confirmed dead? Like, what were the details of that?
Well, it's in my book, Hidden Truths, Forbidden Knowledge. But the bottom line is, I was raised very poor, and I had my own apartment in high school. So I put myself through high school, college, med school. So we had no health care. We still don't have health care in this country. It's all ridiculous. And so I got very sick. I had gotten injured and I got an infection. And then I was a jock, so I bicycled 200 miles from Charlotte to the North Carolina coast and 200 miles back. That infection spread through my whole body. I was by myself at my little studio apartment. in high school. And I got sicker and sicker and sicker and then died.
Thank you so much to our sponsor, Apostrophe, a prescription skincare company for people that are ready to take their acne seriously. Prescription acne treatment really works, but it is hard to get. You have to take time off to work, see a doctor, sit in line at the pharmacy for your medications, yada, yada, yada. But Apostrophe makes it easy to see a board-certified dermatologist online. Just like everything, we are doing it online. You get treated immediately and your medications are delivered to your home. Just fill out Apostrophe's online questionnaire about your skin concerns and medical history, and then just snap a few selfies and your dermatologist will get back to you with a customized treatment plan tailored just for you. Apostrophe offers topical and oral medications so you can treat your acne from the inside out and from the outside in. I've tried a lot of stuff for my skin. I hate going to the dermatologist. I think that's probably why I haven't. Like, I've never actually gotten like acne treatment because it's too much of a hassle. And I've just never been compelled to do it, even when I was like really suffering with acne. So this is a really convenient way to just get it handled. Get $15 off your first visit with a board certified dermatologist at apostrophe.com/Gabbie, and you use our code Gabbie. This code is only available to our listeners. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/Gabbie and click begin visit. Then use the promo code Gabbie at sign up and you'll get $15 off your dermatology visit. That's apostrophe APOSTRPHE. Oh God. APOSTROPHE.com/Gabbie and use that code Gabbie to get your dermatology visit for $15 off. And we thank Apostrophe for sponsoring our podcast. Guys, you know I love Daily Harvest. Those smoothies changed my entire life. The ice cream changed my entire life. Yes, I like the other stuff too. It's very good. It's healthy. It's easy to make. I don't have to question what's in it, which is awesome. But I'm just going to reiterate, you know I love the smoothies. They're so tasty. They're a really great way to just get, honestly, healthy snacking, because it's so hard to healthy snack, especially when you're craving a pizza. Hey, instead of craving a pizza, get a flatbread. Hey, are you craving something like cold and sweet, like froyo or something? Why don't you get a smoothie instead? Are you dying for ice cream? Why not have some ice cream that you know the ingredients? Dude, there was this ice cream, Sam, that I was reading the ingredients because I think it was the salted caramel one. Ooh. And I was like, how much fucking sugar is in this? And I read the label and the sugar was coming from like natural maple syrup. And that's why it was so sweet. But like there wasn't added sugar. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on the not added sugar part, but I'm pretty sure there wasn't. It was just like all natural stuff.
That sounds great.
Dude, it was so good. It was like outrageous. So hey guys, get started today. Go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code Gabbie to get $25 off your first box. That's promo code Gabbie for $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com. That's dailyharvest.com.
I was by myself. And so I left my body and had this amazing experience of sort of universal consciousness, cosmic consciousness, and then out in space. And I was out way deep in space. It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
So that was how it happened. Now, I didn't know what to make of it because I had no education on this sort of near-death experiences, they're called. But I decided I wanted to learn how to experience that state of expanded cosmic consciousness without dropping dead, right? So I said, okay, I don't want to have to die every time. So I learned a meditation technique to develop that ability innately, and it worked. And so 6 months later, I'm up in the mountains of North Carolina. I'm up in the forest meditating at night, way up on top of a mountain. And just before sunset, when I got up there, it was late in the afternoon, there was a beautiful kind of disc-shaped silver UFO that appeared. And it was exactly the same one I'd seen when I was 8 or 9. And I went, oh, they're back. I didn't think anything more about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I then say, oh, and then it just vanishes right in the sky. Doesn't move off, just dematerializes, gone. So I sit down and meditate. And I'm doing this meditation. I go into this deep meditation for probably 2 hours. And at the end of it, I sort of open my eyes and have this cosmic consciousness experience. Except this time, I'm in my
You're
body.
You're not dead.
I had something horrible happen. So, and then I realized that there was a glow over the crest of the mountain. I was on the top of this 5,000 some foot mountain in the Blue Ridge. And then I realized there was this creature, and there was a little creature to my right. And I thought it was a deer standing on hind legs, but it had these beautiful eyes, but it was an ET. Came over and touched me on my right shoulder. And I had a ski jacket on. And as it came over and touched me, all my hair stood on end. I was in this electric field. And that's when I used to have hair. And it went boing, it was like this amazing. And then I sort of literally teleported onto this ship. And I was on the craft for about 3 or 4 hours.
This is when you were 18?
18. This is that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The 18. So I said, my God. And so what we did, I sort of created with this group of ETs from different star systems, a technique, which we call CE5 Contact. There's an app called CE5 Contact. And it's a combination of both meditation and visualization where we connect to these extraterrestrial communication systems. Now, here's the missing link we haven't talked about yet. You and I are talking on this system that's using radio frequencies and electromagnetic frequencies, just like 1844 when the first telegraph was sent. It hasn't changed. We're dealing with civilizations that use trans-dimensional technologies. They're technologies. Right. It's not just psychic phenomenon, but where they have technologies that look like your cell phone or a box, but they interface directly with thought. So they can pick up a very clear, not random thoughts, but if you're directing thought to one of these spacecraft or their occupants, they can pick it up as clearly as you and I are talking right now. So that's what I experienced. And I realized, wow, this is really advanced technology.
Yeah.
And I then
this communication, is it, I think in the first time I was learning about it from you, I think I saw it more as like kind of all mental, almost like telepathic. So it's actually technology. It's not like they have both. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So could we use it?
Have you ever heard of a guy named Elon Musk?
Of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, he's doing, based on this stuff we started putting out, and but the CIA has a program called remote viewing, where they use people to use consciousness to spy on the Russians or whatever. But Elon is developing a electronic system so that you can think to your computer without wires and it will turn on. Now, he doesn't have that, but he knows it exists because he studies this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
does he believe in ETs?
I haven't had that conversation with him. I'm sure
I'll ask him if I get the chance.
I mean, I'm sure he certainly has looked into it.
Yeah.
So what you have to understand is it's both innate telepathic capacity that we all have, which is what the CIA was using for what they call remote viewing.
Yeah.
So people who want to learn about this, you can look at the interview we have with Russell Targ. Dr. Targ was a Lockheed laser physicist that was recruited by the CIA in the 70s to train people to use consciousness to spy on different places. And they were very successful, by the way. So this is not kooky stuff. This is mainstream, but it's classified. And in the mainstream media, it keeps getting ridiculed. Why? Because the mainstream media and the academics are, many of them, brainwashed that this isn't possible. And the intelligence community doesn't want you and your followers to know you can do this.
Right.
See, that's the biggest secret. It's amazing. So what I discovered was that these ETs have the innate capability, like you and I do, to have, well, as you said, astral projection or conscious experiences, but they also have very advanced technologies that are a type of electromagnetic system that interfaces directly with thought. And that's why in Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, a big part of that movie is talking about research that's been done at Princeton University and other places where they have random number generators, these machines where you can think to them and it affects them. You're not touching them. There are no wires. And they're dealing with sciences that we're just beginning to ask questions about, but they have perfected them.
Right.
The good news about that is we don't have to have all the technology because we have the hardware and the software of our own consciousness and mind and spirit. And
Right.
so we can go out with 3 or 4 people. I did this with, I mentioned before we started, a singer, an actress named Demi Lovato, and many of your listeners may have heard of her. And we
Oh,
went out.
all of my listeners know Demi Lovato,
Okay,
I promise.
all right. Well, it's not, my children knew her. And
Yeah.
so we went out to the desert out in Joshua Tree National Park, way up in the high desert in California, in October, this past October. And we were doing these CE5 contact protocols that are in the app. It's just called CE5 contact. And when we did it, we had these amazing, like she posted a picture, I think, on her Instagram of this beautiful, roughly triangular blue, cobalt blue ship right above us.
Hmm.
And we had all this stuff happen. And people, Ahmad's son was there, who's sort of a singer and rapper. And
Yeah, we know Matt's son too. He's dope.
yeah, he's really, and we want to do something like that. I know Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox and a lot of those people are interested and want to do sort of a.
If you do it again soon, please give me a heads up and give me an opportunity because I'm dying to.
Well, the reason I'm doing this with a lot of influencers is because one of the things they found in these meditation studies is that when 1% of the population becomes peaceful and coherent, it changes the other 99%.
Interesting.
It's called quantum entanglement. And the physics behind it, if you look at Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, we talk about a quantum experiment with helium, where when the molecules, about 1% of the molecules become coherent, then instantly all 100%, the
Wow.
other 99% become perfectly coherent. So there's this big exponential effect when a lot of people are doing meditation and consciousness and peace. It affects the world in ways that most people aren't think it possible.
Yeah.
But there are studies that have been done. For example, before I was a medical doctor, I was a meditation teacher. And people like Louise Hay and Hay House, those folks were students of mine. And I'm dating myself. This was back in the 70s. And so what we found was we could put like 1% of the population of a town of 200,000 people, say 2,000 people, and have all those 2,000 people meditating. And the rest of the town didn't know you were even there. They didn't even know you were in town. And suddenly emergency room visits dropped, violent crime rates dropped. The whole society became more peaceful.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is to have 1% of the world's population begin to understand the power we all have collectively.
Yeah.
But it's not an election. We don't need 51%. We need 1%. 1% of America, 3 million people. 1% of the world is 75 million or 80 million.
I think we could manage that. Me and Sam are in. We're doing it. I actually have
we're trying to do. I'm trying to explain why I'm trying to get this word out, because you may be aware of the fact that in the major media, this subject is blacklisted.
Yeah.
The only time the major media covers this subject is if it's being ordered to by the CIA to propel the war message forward, that there's an alien threat, all this sort of nonsense. And so it's up to us, the people, I mean, just regular folks like you and me, to sort of try to get the word out, because if we can do that and enough people can do this together, we can create a world that's peaceful. And the world has to be at a certain level of peace and coherence before the ETs are actually going to openly do what you asked about half an hour ago, and that is actually come out in public, because they're not going to do that so long as they're going to be shot at. And so long as, or also worse than that, is that if they were to do it right now, the military and the media would portray it as an alien invasion. Yeah. Because why? Because they want to get as much money and control over the population through war. I mean, you remember demagogues like Adolf Hitler or other people who've gotten us into terrible wars like Dick Cheney. These people, all of them, they benefit from the people being afraid. They exploit fear. So
That's the
that's
government in
why
general. Fear mongering is just
it is. I mean,
government. Yeah.
that's the name of the game, and that's how you
Yeah.
control people. And fear is the big mind killer. It just shuts you down. And then people
Yeah.
want Big Brother. They want the government to come in and protect them.
Well, I have a question.
Here's what happened after 9/11. These same people exploited that with the Patriot Act and the Iraq War. They exploited everyone's fear and got us into that disaster. What they're planning to do right now, this is why I'm in Washington about half the time, is they're planning to roll this whole alien threat stuff out and try to get the world sort of united in fear against the aliens. And this is all a fraud. It's totally a hoax, just like the Iraq War was. But unfortunately, they've got all the power in the media and all the money, and we don't. Now, what we do have is we can achieve this 1% effect. And if we can do this 1% effect, that will change the other 99. So people think this is some mysterious thing. It isn't. If you study quantum physics and superfluidity and helium, this is one of the experiments that's in Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It shows that this is a proven effect of entanglement, where everything's connected to everything else.
Right.
And the ultimate connectivity, let's call it, isn't the internet, it's consciousness. It's that pure state of the conscious field. So that's really what we're doing. And that's why those random number generator studies were so relevant to our documentary.
I have a question about, so in your documentaries, you show different like thermal photos and energy and the concept of consciousness and acting without your physical human body and things like that. So I totally believe that. But why is it that we're able to kill ETs, and why are they afraid of us? If like do they die? I actually tweeted at you before you and I spoke. Do they have like, what's their lifespan, or do they die at all? And I have another bigger topic I'd actually be really interested into getting into in a second, but I guess let's start there.
Well, there are thousands of civilizations, first of all, and all of them are going to have different biological, genetic, and backgrounds. I think what's important to realize is that if you are, and this is a whole documentary in and of itself, but it's very advanced concepts. So since you asked me, I'll tell you. If you're going beyond the speed of light, you are no longer in a 3D material form.
Right.
You have gone into another dimension. Okay, so let's say you're from the Andromeda galaxy, 2.5 million light years from here. At the speed of light, which is these signals, it would take you 2.5 million years to get here, and another 2.5 million years to get back. So we know, like, if you look at this documentary, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, it's on Prime and Tubi and all these sites now. It'd be 5 million years to go there and back for that ET that came to Joshua Tree. We have a picture of this ET floating in the desert outside our circle that appeared. And he was from the Andromeda galaxy.
Is that the one who healed the deaf man?
No, that's a different one. We'll talk about him in a minute. And so this means that if you're an actual ET, and not just something from the spirit world, but an extraterrestrial biological life form with a spacecraft, you have had to master the other dimensions of the universe to go from point A to B. So what's happening, just so to make it very clear, let's say that they're 1 million light years from here. And instead of at the speed of light taking 1 million years, they drop out of space-time and go through these other dimensions that allow their spacecraft and all the people on board to appear here in a matter of hours or days instead of
when you were on the spacecraft when you were 18, was your body there or your consciousness?
Both. But the body,
your physical body was there.
If you read the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, you'll see that your body in certain states can dematerialize and then rematerialize. It's called teleportation. So this is being done scientifically. So all these sort of mythical things you've heard about that can be done by enlightened masters, extrapolate that forward into it being a very high-end technology. So levitation, teleportation, bilocation, all of those things can be done through physics and through science, but I mean, not the science of the 1800s.
Right.
What we're using, everyone thinks we're so advanced. There's so much arrogance in America. Oh, we're so advanced. We have a cell phone. I go, yeah, let me tell you what that is. It's the same frequency being used by Marconi in 1844.
Right.
So we're really, and look at what we're doing for our cars. We're still burning oil, like Mercedes in 1888 when they developed the internal combustion engine. So everyone thinks we're so exalted. I said, no, we're not.
It just looks prettier.
Yeah, it's sleeker. You have some computers. But remember, the computers and fiber optics and all that came about from studying ET spacecraft we had shot down.
Right.
That's where all that came from. Night vision, all of it.
So I want to go in a direction.
What they've not allowed to come out are the energy sources that would get us off oil, because oil and gas is trillions of dollars in assets. And I call the petro-Nazis don't want us to be free. They don't want us to be free of their control.
Does consciousness die, or is it immortal?
No, it's forever.
So you brought up that you were raised atheist. You never really believed anything. Did the discovery of ETs in any way make you believe in life after death?
No, because I had, as I explained, I had a near-death experience and had that life after death experience before I really had the contact with ETs. So it was.
But you do believe in life after death?
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, I have no question about it.
And I think that was.
I've taken care of too many people. I mean, remember, I'm a trauma guy. So you can't imagine the number of people I've seen who've been shot in car wrecks and we save their lives and the stories they can tell from having been on the other side and coming back. So this is, I mean, there are whole books written about this, by the way. So, now I don't really buy into the organized religion part of all that, because I think that's been corrupted by men. And again, it's demagoguery, trying to control people through fear and superstition. So you say, you have religious leaders and scientific leaders are both doing the same thing. They're trying to control people with demagoguery, and they're not telling people the whole truth. I'm just interested in what the truth is, frankly.
Yeah, totally. This was something that I was, I think this is another reason that I got so interested in exploring this, because I was raised super Catholic, and
a recovering Catholic.
there was always something to it that I felt was real. Like, I believed that there was something greater and there was something after death, and that there were beings like angels that were there, but there was something that never sat right with me when it came to if I did a certain thing that didn't seem like that bad. Like, I was raised that if you don't go to church every week, you go to hell no matter what life you led, and things like that didn't make sense.
Yes, I think it's very important to understand that all of the above exists. So you have both beings from other dimensions that are from the spirit world, you call them angels or whatever, but you also have ETs, but when their technologies have shifted them into that dimension and then back into 3D, during that point when they're in that other dimension, they would be easily confused with, but you need to have discernment between the two.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just lump everything together. It isn't just semantics. There's actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, I did a whole 2 or 4 hour, I think it was a 4-hour workshop on the cosmos and all these dimensions and how they're interplaying and interacting.
Wow.
People have specific information about it.
I wasn't expecting you to believe in angels.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah. And remember, that realm of, say, celestial, the ETs are very aware of those realms, but they're not from that realm. But they could have technologies and consciousness equal to the celestial. But as they go through those other dimensions, as you evolve technologically and spiritually, you're going to be very aware of these other dimensions of spirit beings, afterlife, celestial, angelic, all of it. So
Do you believe in heaven?
well, these are loaded phrases. I mean, heaven is described by who? Some ignorant old man in a robe from 2000. Yeah, you have to define all this.
Right.
Heaven is the state of consciousness.
That's to me where I go back to like semantics. Maybe the angels and aliens things was a little off, but when I think I had a lot of anxiety growing up, fearing hell or not going to heaven, and then wondering, is this real, whatever. But then when you start talking about consciousness, that gave me a sense of like hope and peace in the way of achieving that level of consciousness afterlife that may not be heaven. And that's where the semantics come in of heaven or nirvana or whatever it is, reincarnate, whatever you want to call it. And I just think that's so interesting that to look at religion or Western religion, at least through a scientific lens of actually talking about like the space-time continuum and transcending dimensions, because all of that is real. So that was a question I was dying to ask you. And
so consciousness, basically, let's call it, to me, these loaded terms, heaven and hell, are kindergarten words for something more complex.
What would you consider hell if heaven is this elevated consciousness?
I'll tell you what these things are. So let's say that you, in this life, you work to do good things for the world and your family and your community, and you reach a certain level of consciousness and trying to do the best you can. At the time of your death, your spirit body is going to go to that level of consciousness that it has attained here. But let's say you're Adolf Hitler, or you're a mass murderer, or you're some sociopath, or any one of the many people I would see in the emergency department every day who, raping children and horrible, horrible things. If you die at that state of behavior and consciousness, you're going to aggregate with people of that level of consciousness. That's hell. Okay. So I think that people become so literalistic because it's been described that way in a more primitive society.
Right.
But I think we need to begin to understand these things at childhood's end now. We need to be in a sort of grow up as a civilization and understand the multiverse universe and all these dimensions and what our place in it is, but also what these extraterrestrial civilizations and how they understand it, because they're understanding it from their level of consciousness. And as the ancient Vedas say, the world is as you are. In other words, you're going to understand the world the way you are. But if we're dealing with civilizations that have evolved way past where we are, both scientifically and in consciousness, they're going to understand the cosmos from their level of consciousness.
Do you only have, I guess this is kind of teetering into like more of a religious thing too, because I find this so fascinating, having looked at religion through a very Catholic lens my whole life and now seeing these things. So, you're talking about if you die an enlightened person who wants to help community and family versus if you die as Hitler. Is that your one chance, like your life on Earth? Or does that consciousness have the ability to then continue to grow and change and be better in whatever dimension? Yeah. So that's like purgatory, I guess, right?
You can continue to evolve. But of course, people can get stuck. But in other dimensions, time doesn't exist the way we understand time.
Right.
All right. So these get into really complex cosmological discussions. So what we're going to have to evolve, I wrote this back in 1994 or 5. I wrote a paper called ETs and the New Cosmology. And it's in my first book. I have 5 books. And in the first book, one of these sections is on the cosmos and the astral worlds and the higher dimensions and what have you, and how that's integrated into a paradigm of understanding how ETs are traveling, what they understand, but also the dimensions that they're going to pass through. So what's interesting is that I had a man who worked for Lockheed Skunk Works, a super secret engineering, but he contacted me with the same question you just asked, because he was being trained to do what's called astral projection, where your body of light travels and goes places.
Right.
And there was some group called Rosicrucians. I've never studied it, but that's what he was studying, that tradition. And he said he had this experience where his teacher said, look, you've been trying to do this, just do it. So he laid down and did whatever technique they did. And he literally left his body, went up and through his ceiling into the atmosphere, but then he slammed into the side of an ET craft, an extraterrestrial craft that was up in the atmosphere. And he said that what he didn't understand, he wasn't in his physical body, he was in his astral body, like what you fly around in when you're having a lucid dream, for example. That's your astral body, subtle energy body. And that is quantifiable, by the way. It's a known quantity. And so when he hit this craft, he actually moved it with his astral body. And he then popped inside, and there were these ETs standing at a console going, my God, why don't you watch where you're going? And he didn't understand how he could be not in his physical body, but this was an actual ET spacecraft. It wasn't that he ran into a bunch of ghosts or spirits or angels, but he didn't understand why the ET spacecraft would have moved. So here's the punchline. Here's the punchline here. The reason the ET spacecraft moved is because they were shifted out of 3D into a higher dimension that's in the near astral.
The aliens, the ETs shifted?
Yeah, that's how they travel.
I think something that trips up a lot of people, I know for me, it's hard for me to wrap my head around when we say the word dimension. Like, I have a very vague, abstractive idea of what that means. Do you have a way of describing or explaining what a dimension is?
Well, let's say 3D we're right here in this 3D material world. Mm-hmm. When you go into, let's say, a higher frequency, a resonance, you can shift into another dimension, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8D. And what that is just very levels of refinement. Now, the ultimate dimension, which is beyond space and time, is consciousness, pure consciousness. And the pure conscious field in its pure form is the universal aspect of consciousness. But everything from there, from the celestial to all the different levels and vibrations and resonances, all the way right here to 3D, that's all folded within the conscious hologram. It's all folded within the conscious field. Now, we're trained in the West to think very separately. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to Native peoples, like my grandmother was Cherokee. And so the Native Americans thought it was very odd that white people always viewed everything as separate. Whereas in the culture of many peoples, they saw everything as integrated in one.
Right.
And which is actually more correct. But the Western perspective is very separate and very much in a line. It's called reductionism, if you want to Google reductionism. And so there's a place for science that's reductionist, where it's taking things apart, figuring out how atoms and molecules and things work. But there's a similarly important thing we have to do with holism, where the holistic and integrated levels of consciousness and other dimensions. And these other dimensions are simply further and further, let's call it vibrations and resonant frequencies that are finer and finer and finer and finer. So you get to the very finest, celestial, and then from there you get into pure thought, and then from there you get into pure consciousness. Now, interestingly, what's cool about humans, and this is where the old saying, although no one has thought about what it really means, you're made in the image of God. The reason humans are fascinating, as well as ETs, is that as a conscious being that can be aware of awareness, aware of spirit itself, we have the ability to realize all those dimensions that are folded within us. So everyone's always looking outward. In reality, everything that we're talking about is folded within you and within me and within everyone listening. And the beauty of that is that when people realize who and what they are, then they see they have infinite potential for growth, right, experience, what have you.
Do you believe in God?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe in God now?
Well, yes, but again, that's a freighted term. I mean, if you
Yeah.
use the word God, what does that mean? You know, if you talk to some superstitious person, it's an angry man sitting on a mountain throwing lightning bolts at
So what
people.
is it to you?
So it's the infinity of the great spirit, what the native people call the great and infinite universal spirit.
Mhm.
And so that exists, but that's also within each of us. And it's
Right.
also within each thing. It's omnipresent. So the understanding of it, you can have what I consider sort of a very kindergarten understanding of it. And the reason a lot of those terms I try to avoid is that they're so freighted, they're so
Right.
laden with baggage.
Right.
And I don't know that it's helpful because it's not understood in a proper way. But the way I understand it is, yes, there is a infinite and unbounded conscious field of being, but it's not like it's some way remote, distant reality. It's actually the foundation of where you're conscious right now and I'm conscious. And it's
Mhm.
you go into deep, quiet mind, say that samadhi state, deep and conscious meditation, you can experience that omnipresent aspect. But what's interesting is that's always within you and within me and
Right.
within everybody. So once people understand that, but you kind of have to free yourself from all the trappings. I think it's almost like we were all raised in a society, whether it was religious or scientific, that has sort of brainwashed us into not realizing who and what we are. And ironically, the more we understand who we are, we're going to have to do that to understand what the ETs are,
Mhm.
because we're more alike than not. I mean, they may
Right.
look different and they may have different technologies and more advanced, but the structure of reality that they understand that's within them and that they're utilizing throughout the cosmos to travel and teleport or whatever, that reality quite beautifully is within all of us.
Right.
And so that's why the word alien means foreign. I said, the motto for my organization is one universe, one people. So there's actually one sentient life form expressing itself as beings and people throughout the cosmos, both physical, as in ET and humans, and
Mhm.
also other dimensional, as in angels or whatever. So I think all of that is integrated together. And that's why we need to sort of evolve a holistic, comprehensive cosmology, an understanding of the cosmos.
What about animals? Because they're conscious, right? So
Yeah.
are they kind of
Yeah.
on the same level as us?
Well, no, there are different levels of consciousness. I mean, not all humans are on the same level of consciousness,
Right. But do
right?
they have the potential that we as humans have or no?
They have a different potential. Theirs is
Got
more
it.
of an innocent state, but animals do not sit and meditate and think and
Right.
also go into those states, but they are very intuitive
Mhm.
and they're very much type. For example, I have 65 acres here, and if my dogs are out in the meadow, like 100 yards away, if I just look at them through the window, they'll feel my consciousness. Everyone's
Right.
having, and they'll turn and look right at me.
Right.
All right, even though I've not said a word or done it, they can feel that. So the other part of this that's really beautiful, which is what I teach in my more advanced classes, is that everything is consciousness itself.
Mhm.
The microphone you have is actually an aspect of it is conscious. It's all consciousness. And so the animal kingdom, let's call it, all the animals and animal spirit, that's very real. And they can interact with you. It's intuitive, but it's at their level of interaction, which is much more uh, sort of intuitive, spontaneous, as opposed
Right.
to thinking and what have you. So it's different levels of capabilities that animals would have versus, say, humans or ETs, but they can become extremely advanced in terms of their interactions with humans.
Right. Right.
I know that, and also with ETs. I've noticed that when we're out in a remote area and there's an ET craft approaching, the coyote, all the animals pick up on it. They
Mm.
pick up on the presence and energy. It's really amazing. It's really cool.
Are there Okay, so we're in the third dimension. Are there dimensions that are there's a 2 and a 1, right? Or are there dimensions that are more primitive than us?
Well, no, three dimension means the spatially,
Okay, got it. I'm
point
an
and
idiot.
a
Never mind.
line. So, yeah.
Got it.
So in other words, yeah. So this is the 3D, but yeah, some people consider time the fourth dimension. Other physicists don't even think time exists, except that it's the delta, the rate of change of events. But then you have these more subtle uh, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 10th, 12th dimensions that are other energy fields, all the way up to the infinite.
Hmm.
So someone's asked me once, how many dimensions are there? I said, how many numbers are there between one and infinity?
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
still access like the way that you had that contact with an ET when you were 18? Are you able to do that on command, or is that something that they have to invite you into?
no. That's what the CE5 contact protocols are. It's the CE5 contact app is a whole meditative process to train people to do this on their own. So no, you can actually go into that state and remote view, see with consciousness to ETs, and then invite them to come.
What about Bob Lazar? Are you friends with him?
Oh, I've known him for many, many years. He just had he would be like one minor witness, of which I have 980.
Right.
What he
Yeah, they
saw,
hate him too, I feel like.
was just, he was only there a few weeks at the Nellis Air Force Base. So what he saw was a very like tiny little sliver of something.
Do you think he has reason to be as fearful for his life as he is?
No, not at this point.
Got it.
No.
I want to
In
give
fact,
you
I mean, I tell
preemptively.
people I don't buy into the whole fear thing anyway. You
Right.
don't do what I'm doing and run around with your tail between your ass. I mean,
Right.
no offense, but you just, I've been threatened plenty, but
Right.
I don't respond to the threat. I mean,
Right.
I say no. I don't buy into that. And besides, so what? Somebody wants to kill me, they kill me. I'll be on the other side. Fine.
Right.
I'm not afraid of that. But one of the reasons I always tell people, if you become more spiritually developed, you become fearless, not in a stupid way, but in a deeply spiritual way, because
Right.
you begin to realize that the reality of who and what you are isn't dependent on your physical existence in this dimension. We're all evolving. I am, you are,
Mhm.
everyone on the planet are evolving. And the planet needs us to evolve. I mean, the
Yeah.
Earth, here's something that people think this is mythological, but the Earth is actually a conscious living being that's female. And
Oh, I believe that. Hell yeah.
100% true. It's not just Greek mythology. So the Earth really wants us to experience our civilization evolving into a next level, next generation civilization that isn't destroying her. Because right now, getting back to the beginning of where we started, the reason the disclosure of all this is so important, but it be done carefully in a way that doesn't lead to World War III, is that the technologies and the science and the information that have been developed. I mean, we've spent trillions of dollars in our tax dollars to
Hmm.
develop these technologies that are sitting in classified projects that would
Right.
literally save the world's biosphere and would literally eliminate poverty globally in one generation. I've seen it. I've seen these things operate. I have
Hmm.
dozens of people on my team who are scientists and physicists who worked on these technologies. And here we are, literally cannibalizing and murdering the
Hmm.
planet for no good reason. So if
Right.
we're going to be compassionate towards our fellow humans, but also to the earth herself,
Right.
we have to work to bring this information and knowledge, but also the technology out. At the same time, we have to carefully develop a way to making contact with these civilizations that's peaceful, because I don't think the US government or any government, I've been dealing with the Russians at the top level, the British, Australian, Canadian, none of these governments are in any position to handle this properly yet. I'm hoping that changes. I'm working
Right.
with that change. I have meetings all the time with senior people in governments, but right now it's really up to us. It's kind of like I'm down the road from Thomas Jefferson's home, Monticello, and I say it's we the people. We the people are going to have the relationship with these civilizations. We're going to have to bring these technologies out ourselves. It's not going to be big corporations and big government doing it. So my next project I want to do is actually to develop a research and development lab that brings out these energy technologies that gets us off oil and nuclear power and all this. But that we never had funding for. You know, just so your audience knows, I'm a retired medical doctor, and my wife, who's 72, and I have a little corner of our living room where we run this whole project. We have no staff, we have no funding, we have no secretaries, we don't have anything. So we're just doing it with volunteers. It's all volunteers. So, which is fine. But I'm just saying that eventually we're going to need to put together a group of people who can actually do these sciences properly, because the sciences we know. I have a CIA contact who gave me a CD, a disc, that has thousands of confiscated patents on it of these technologies that not from ETs, but that people have discovered, that they keep confiscating them and keeping them away because there's so much money and power in the current system of oil and utilities and gas. And eventually, if these things did well enough, or if we had enough supporters, we would be able to then open a research lab that would bring these energy technologies out that are based on what's called 0-point energy and quantum vacuum technologies, which would, you'd have a little box that would sit at your house that would run your house with no electric bill and no pollution. And you could have a little thing in your car to run an electric car, so you'd never have to plug it in. I always joke with Elon Musk. I say, he doesn't have a Tesla. He has a Musk. A true Tesla would never have to be plugged in. A real Tesla would be running off of what Tesla called the infinite energy field that's in the fabric of space-time. And you would not have to be plugging in your car to a gas or coal-fired power grid. A lot of people don't realize that between the lithium batteries in those cars and charging them off the grid, depends on where your energy is coming from your electric service, they may be more polluting overall than a car that isn't electric, because
I've always thought that.
I call it sort of a fake electric car, because the ones that would be the real ones would have a 0-point generator in it, pulling energy from the fabric of space-time, and would never have a run out of energy, and it would also never have to be plugged in. But those technologies, the people I know who tried to bring those out, those guys have been assassinated on my team. So we're trying to do this in a way where...
Sorry, I just looked at the producer. We made very intense eye contact. Like, that's so scary.
I mean,
but that's why this is important.
Engineers. I've told people you cannot do this quietly.
I'm not going to get assassinated, right?
Huh?
I'm not going to get assassinated, right, for trying to spread the word.
At this point, that's ancient history, but you have to do it right. I think these technologies have to be brought out where it's open source, there's no patents, there's no intellectual property, and the development of them, the laboratory itself, is live streamed so that the whole world's watching this.
Right.
If you do it secretively, someone's going to come in and pull the plug on it. So you have to do this. Well, that's what I've run up against. I mean, I'm 30 years into doing this stuff, and I've seen every terrible thing happen. And so you kind of have to learn from your life,
Right. God.
And I've seen some geniuses in terms of scientists do this the wrong way. And the next thing you know, they're gone. They're dead.
God,
so,
that is terrifying.
So when I call them the petro-Nazis, they are really fascist. And all you people listening who act like you're so concerned about the environment, you're not going to fix the environment. I have a huge solar farm here, but the cost of that thing and the amount of energy it puts out is never going to be adequate to run this planet. These next generation high-tech energy systems are the way forward. But that means you're going to terminate the petrodollar system and the oil and gas system. And when you start talking about that, there are a lot of people very violently opposed. So I think that this is why people ask, why is this subject secret? And,
Money.
it's because it's so profound what would change if this was brought out truthfully.
Right.
Instead, the intelligence community and the media are trying to bring this out in a way that's this national security threat. And the reason that's the case is they don't want to talk about the promise of an enlightened civilization that has free energy and no poverty. They want to unite the world in a negative way, in war with the aliens. So that's what this next documentary I want to do is an expose of that whole fraud.
Oh my God.
Why we the people have to be the face of humanity to these civilizations. We cannot let this just stay in the hands of the government. And by the way, today, we inaugurated a new president, and when Joe Biden was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I briefed him on this, and he wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole.
Because he's scared, or because of money, or what?
Both.
Got it.
So I have people who are going to help me get the current administration up to speed on this, and also members in the Congress. But I have been working that system since 1992 and 93. And it seems to me that the problem with it is that the powerful interests that fund big operations and campaigns, those are all tied into the banking cartels, the energy cartels, the transportation, the utilities. It's hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of trillions of dollars. So usually if you're a politician, you don't want to bite the hand that's feeding you.
Of course, yeah.
All right. So I have found that most of them don't want to take on an issue this big because they're intimidated by it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then, when it comes to these cliches of people who advocate for contacting ETs, there's always all this conversation about government conspiracy, and it gets turned into like a joke and a meme of like the government doesn't want us to know that there's aliens, but there is actually for real motive that involves money, power, and ego. Exactly.
Well, the truth is, in defense of quote government, I would say it's rare that I meet someone in government that knows anything about this subject. And even if they ask about it, they're either told a lie or they're told go away. So everyone thinks that once you become president or a chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, you can wave a wand and pull a lever and you have all access pass like at a rock concert. No, that is not.
So who has the information? Like, who are the top of these people who are apparently ruling the fucking world?
Yep. Well, I know who they are, and I've met with a number of them.
Just own businesses? Like, who are they?
Well, it's a combination. Some are corporate and finance, and some are inside government, but they're in what are called unacknowledged special access projects, and that's the name of this documentary. I recommend people see Unacknowledged first, because it really takes you through the witnesses, the whistleblowers in the military, the evidence, and the architecture of secrecy. And then Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind kind of picks up from there. And Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind then goes into this whole concept of the science of consciousness, humans making contact directly, and all of us basically just bypassing the government. Because I think here's a great expression: if the people will lead, the leaders will follow. But right now, our leaders need us to lead, because they're sitting in a system that does not reward somebody rocking the boat like this. Right. All right. And that's true of everyone. I don't care if you're left, right, center, Republican, Democrat, none of those people. The most allegedly progressive people in the U.S. Congress I have met with, and they don't want to touch us with a 10-foot pole. because it's dangerous. Same thing with every president since Clinton, Obama, Bush, all of them, Trump. I have people who are on my team who are close friends with Pence and Trump, getting information to them. Trump and Pence wouldn't do anything publicly about this. So now we'll see with the new administration. Maybe someone there will.
Right.
I'm always hopeful, but I wouldn't bet the ranch on it. I think that it's a safer bet is that you and me and everyone who follows us and other people who are influencers get this information out. And there's been this huge shift in our society from the grassroots, from the ground up. So I don't really see a change this big. If you look at history, big changes in history have never come from the center of power. It's always come from out here.
Right.
Think about the American Revolution. Think about the Reformation. Think about any big changes in society have always come from outside the center of power. So that's us. That's the grassroots. That's the power of we the people. So I think we the people have to lead, and then the leaders will follow.
Yeah, dude. Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Now it's in your lap.
Listen, guys, Dr. Greer, if you're listening to this point of the podcast, I'm assuming that you're at least open-minded enough to look some more into it.
Yep.
I want to thank you, Dr. Greer, for coming on, giving me 2 hours of your time and sharing so much information. Of course. Thank you for coming.
Where are you?
I'm in my studio in my house in LA.
Well, LA. Okay. Well, I go out to LA a lot, so let's get together next time.
Please. I was going to say before you got off this call, please, whenever you're in LA, feel free to come back on the show, or we can just grab some food or a coffee. I'd love to just meet you in person.
Desert and do CE5.
Please. Please. Oh my God. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, be great.
Everything for Dr. Greer is linked down below. Guys, check it out. And if you want to meditate and join the aliens with me, no, not the aliens, the ETs. We're all in this together. As Dr. Greer said, it's up to us.
If you sign up to our newsletter email list, we do a monthly thing where we do on the same, I think it's the first or second Saturday of the month. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm in it.
Where we have the whole world doing the CE5 meditation together at the same night.
Oh, we are in it.
Fun. Yeah,
Sam,
so really great power thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Greer.
Thank you. I really appreciate your help and your perspective and everything.
Well, I can't wait to see you in LA, and I can't wait to go to the desert and contact the ETs with you.
All right, thanks again. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Burnout with Gabbie Hanna.